So thank you everyone for attending today. My name is Brandon Grant. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director here at QuoteWerks. And today we're going to be demonstrating and discussing a lot of the features that have been added in QuoteWerks version 5.6 builds 2 and 3. So we had essentially 2 releases back to back with a bunch of features. So we're going to be discussing kind of both of them. For those of you that have gotten the emails about updating and the new build available, essentially the way our updates work is that if you update to the latest version, you receive all the updates up to that version. So that includes anything that's available in build 2. It's also available in build 3, so you don't have to update to build 2 and then 3. You can just go straight to the latest one. So we're going to just have a very short PowerPoint presentation just kind of discussing some of the major features and functionality in this release. We'll do a live demonstration of a lot of the major features so you can see how that works and how you can start using those. And then we'll go through and we'll answer questions today as well. You'll see in your GoToMeeting toolbar, there's an option that says questions. That's where you can post any questions you have. So if you have any questions, feel free to post those in there as we're going through things today. They can be related to the demo or QuoteWerks in general, and I'll do my best to answer those as quickly as possible. If I don't circle back to your question immediately, just hang tight. I will go over as many questions as time allows at the end of our presentation today as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So version 5.6, builds 2 and 3. We added over 49 new features. So a lot of the major features we're going to talk about today. You can see a full list on the website, so that is available for you, so you can see everything that's been added. 24 new fixes, so if there's a specific issue that you were waiting on being resolved, you can check the updates page on our website or contact support, and they can let you know if it's been changed. And then 13 miscellaneous features, which are just typically smaller features that we've been adding to just make things a little easier. May not be like a major kind of feature. So we usually like to start this out with talking about our integration updates because for a lot of you that's going to be really important. So the biggest one is going to be HubSpot CRM support. So for those of you that are using HubSpot CRM or have been thinking about using HubSpot CRM, it is now officially supported in QuoteWerks. You do need to be on QuoteWerks Professional or Corporate Edition. You also have to update to the latest to get access to that. ConnectWise 2020.4 support, I think most of the ConnectWise users have already been updated because that's been available for a little while now. But if you haven't updated, if you've been waiting to update your ConnectWise because you're waiting on QuoteWerks, that is available now, so you can go ahead and push that update. For our Salesforce users, ton of improvements, some new features in there. Check out the updates page for a full list, some smaller things that should just make things a little easier, a little simpler for you. Sugar CRM, biggest one for those is the auto links are now supported on that links tab. So when you pull in contacts and create opportunities and things like that. MS CRM users, we added a bunch of updates to the opportunity, just again making things a little more seamless, give you a few more options in that opportunity window. So you should see those once you're updated as well. And same thing with Zoho CRM users, auto link support and some other features in there as well. So definitely make sure you check those out. Okay, so kind of the big one, one of the flagship features of this release is going to be the HubSpot CRM integration. This is going to be available for Professional and Corporate Edition users of QuoteWerks. It does integrate with the starter version of HubSpot CRM, and anything higher, I think, is Professional and Enterprise. But we integrate with those 3 editions of HubSpot CRM. Product support will be available, so we'll write the line items information over into the deals into HubSpot CRM. That is based on the edition of HubSpot CRM you're using, because I think the starter version doesn't support line items in their deals. So if you want that, you'll have to just be on a higher edition of HubSpot CRM. But as far as QuoteWerks goes, you just need to be on Professional or Corporate Edition, and you'll have access to that. This will let you create, update, and win deals. You'll be able to create products and services in the HubSpot CRM, and you can even use the HubSpot CRM items. So if you have your item list already set up in HubSpot CRM, you'll be able to search and pull those directly into QuoteWerks. View, edit item in product database menu option. So it sounds complicated. It's actually very, very simple. But the idea is to allow you to make changes to an item product definition in the database from the workbook. So if you've added an item to your workbook, to your quote, and you realize that maybe the pricing is outdated or there's a new picture available and you update it on that line item, we can now edit that item's definition directly from the workbook, and that way you can make those adjustments permanent, so it doesn't have to just be for that item that you're working on. So we'll go over how to do that today. You'll see that there that you have the option to edit single items at a time, or you can do multiple items. You can essentially highlight multiple items, but we'll walk through how to make those changes. Very, very easy and very, very useful feature. Expanded email support options. So we added OAuth 2.0 support for Gmail and G Suite users, Office 365, and Office Live. So if you're using any of those, which is going to be a significant portion of those of you that use QuoteWerks, this is going to make it much easier to integrate your email with QuoteWerks. I will show you how to set that up. It's going to be very, very simple. So you'll be able to make those changes. We also added support for the Map users. So if you're using like Thunderbird or GroupWise, those Windows kind of built-in email clients, we added some support for that as well. But really the big ones for is going to be for like the Gmail users, the Office 365 users. That's going to be most people who are using email are using one of those two systems. And this will allow you to just authenticate much quicker and resolve any outstanding issues that you may have had getting that connected. So I'll show you how to do that. Again, going to be very, very easy to set up for your users. Native and linked product searching in Edelweiss. So for those of you that are using Edelweiss in QuoteWerks, this is now going to let you cross-reference your linked and native product databases from QuoteWerks all in one spot. So if you were searching in Edelweiss for an item, and that item you also maybe carry inventory of in like your ConnectWise database or your Salesforce or your Autotask databases, we can actually cross-reference those all at once, so you can see the pricing for that particular item across all of your databases. So I'll show you how that works here in just a few minutes. It is a feature you'll essentially have to turn on, so I'll show you how to do that also. Quote importer improvements. So for those of you that are using Ingram Micro, Tech Data, and Synex quote importers, if you're using one or all three, we've added some new features for these. Basically, you'll be able to pull in like the expiration date from the vendors. For Ingram Micro, you're able to pull in like line item comments, and I believe there's another one in there that we'll walk through. Same thing with Tech Data, you can pull in the expiration date, and I think the quote number for that one, and then Synex, you can pull in the Synex quote number now into like a custom text field. So just provide some more information that you can pull into the quote to makes it even more seamless when using these features. And then as far as purchasing, we had a new feature in the purchasing window. This will now display your standard and negotiated unit cost. So this is really useful when you are using the purchasing in QuoteWerks. If you wanted to see the unit cost for the item, we always displayed that, but now we'll also display the negotiated cost. And what that means is basically if you negotiated a specific unit cost for the item, maybe you got special pricing for it, we'll display that, and then in parentheses we'll actually show the standard cost if it's different than the negotiated cost, just so you know that that was applied, so that you'll see those differences. So I'll point that out here, and that's actually retroactive, so you'll actually be able to see that information moving forward once you update. As always, definitely connect with us on social media. That's typically where we post about our events. So we do have our virtual summit coming up in 2 weeks. We only have about 20 spots open left, I believe. So if you are interested in attending the virtual summit, make sure you sign up today, because we only do have about 20 spots left. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, make sure you're following us. This is where we release a lot of product information about events and new features in QuoteWerks, just tips and tricks, all kind of useful information in there. And then obviously we do have a ton of resources on the website. So if you haven't been to the website in a while, make sure you check it out. It's a great place to check out new videos that are available. The help documentation is available there. All the live and recorded webinars are posted there. And then as always, you can always email us or call us for any type of support. We're always happy to help. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to QuoteWerks now. So go ahead and okay, looks like that loaded. Perfect. So the first thing we want to talk about today is really going into the HubSpot integration, and we'll probably do a full-blown webinar just for the HubSpot integration, but I'm just going to walk through some of the major features today just to kind of give you a feel for it. So you'll see here in the Setup Contact Manager that HubSpot CRM is now available. There's a full setup for it, and basically you'll just need to request access, and then it'll authorize you through OAuth. You'll put in your HubSpot credentials if you're not logged in, and then there's some features and some options for the deals. And then once that has been set, you'll be able to start using the integration. So like most of our integrations, you'll be able to search for contacts. So you can search by name, phone number, company, phone, first name, last name, that type of thing. And when you do a search, you'll be able to pull in the contact or the account. And same thing, when you make your selection, you'll be able to pull them directly into QuoteWerks that way. Additionally, once you have your contact in the document, we can pull items directly from that HubSpot CRM database. So if you have set up your items in HubSpot CRM, they'll be available, so you can actually do a search on those items based on the item name or the part number, however you want to do that, and pull those items directly into QuoteWerks as well. You can even do a show all, which will load all of the items that are in your HubSpot CRM database. And if you want to pull one of them into the document or multiple, you can do that. So you can see here, very easy to pull your items. So if you're using QuoteWerks with a different CRM and you're moving to HubSpot CRM, or you're thinking about moving to HubSpot, you'll see that the feature set is going to be pretty similar to what you're used to. So it'll make it really easy for any type of transition if you're interested in doing that. Okay, so once you have an item in here or other items, we can click on the save icon, and that's what triggers the integration with HubSpot. You'll see here, again, typical QuoteWerks functionality, your name, document name, status, all that. But then this is also where we're going to create that deal in HubSpot. For those of you who are unfamiliar, deals in HubSpot are just opportunities. They just refer to them as deals, very similar to Zoho. So we'll go ahead and we'll create that deal. Click OK. That'll save our document in QuoteWerks, bring up the HubSpot deal window, and you can create a brand new deal, or you can link to an existing one. And you can give your deal the name, and then who the owner is, the stage. So we'll just say quoted, type, new business, closing date, we'll say hopefully next Friday. And then if you wanted to put any type of forecast in there or any notes, you can do that as well. And then click OK. And then that will create that deal in HubSpot. I do see a question about performance improvements. So actually, with Quote Valet, someone asked if there were any performance improvements in the latest release. For you, those of you that are using Quote Valet, we actually did add some performance improvements. So when you update, you'll actually see that where like the reporting tab and things like that will load faster now. For the HubSpot CRM, you'll see here on the Links tab, we do support auto links. So that makes it really, really easy to go back and forth between the two systems. So we can actually just go to View Deal in HubSpot CRM, and that'll actually open up that deal in HubSpot CRM for us with all the information. And then if there's any activity you need to log in HubSpot CRM, you can do that, and you kind of click back and forth. So that makes it really easy. And then when the customer has moved forward, again, like our other CRMs, when you convert the quote to an order, that will also update your opportunity or your deal that QuoteWerks created as one in not only QuoteWerks, but it'll also update it in HubSpot CRM as one, or your CRM that you're using. So you'll see here it says close one, and it's going to change the closing date to today, and then we'll click OK, and it's going to update that deal in HubSpot CRM. That auto link will stay there, so it's always a nice little shortcut. So if you open up that quote in QuoteWerks and you want it to go straight to that deal, you can do that. So it's just a very quick link back there. So very easy to use. Like I said, we'll probably do a full webinar on that and go into much more detail about the integration, but just wanted to kind of give you a quick overview of what's available in the integration with HubSpot CRM. And like I said, if you're on the professional or corporate edition of HubSpot, then you'll be able to, or a professional edition of QuoteWerks, you'll be able to use the integration with HubSpot CRM. That'll be available too. You just need to update. Okay, so we're going to click over to this quote here. This is where we can start talking about that view, edit, item, and product database menu, and kind of what that means. So If we double click in our description field here, we see we have our electric fingerprint scanner with keypad, and maybe this description is out of date, so we wanted to make a change to it. So we make the change and we click OK, and then our unit cost is also out of date. So maybe we want to say, hey, it's actually only $175 now. So that's great. So we'll go ahead and we'll update that, and that's great for this customer. However, this doesn't fix the item in the database. This is actually going to only make the change on this quote. So what we can do now is you actually have a shortcut. If you highlight an item and you click on this icon in your grid toolbar, this will actually open up the product definition for this item in the database that you pulled it from. So you can see here I pulled it from my vendor ABC database. There's my part number, there's my description. So now I can actually come in here, update this description, and maybe I want to adjust the pricing as well. Say, okay, you know, my unit cost actually dropped down to $165, and we'll adjust our markup. So we'll give the customer a discount, but we'll also take a little extra as well. And then I can make that change. It's also a really easy way if the items like picture has been updated, if you want to include a new picture, if you need to adjust any recurring settings. Basically, if you need to make any adjustments to this item permanently, you can now do it from this window. So it's going to be really useful and really easy to make those changes. One of the nice things is it is independent from your selected item. And what that means is that we just use this as the reference part number to open up this window. So any changes you make here are not going to be in this window, so you don't have to worry about it syncing back and forth. I know that's a big problem because a lot of you like to make changes on the fly and you don't want it to automatically update, so we don't do that. So you actually have to tell QuoteWerks, hey, let's go ahead and make changes to this item into the database. And then once I hit OK, then it'll update it with those changes. So that's a really quick way to go through and make changes to any from any items on the workbook. So instead of having to go into your product lookup window, find the item, find it in the right database, and then go edit it and make those changes, you can now do it from this window kind of while you're thinking about saying, oh yeah, I need to update that item's pricing. So very, very easy to do from this window. You can also do it from multiple items as well. So if I wanted to select 3 items at once, again, you can do that. And if we made a change, whatever change we make, you simply click OK, and then it'll move on to the next item. So you can see here, move it on to our router now, and then our labor item. So it makes those changes, any changes that we make will now be saved into the database for further use. So if we click OK, that'll make those changes. You can access this feature from the grid toolbar here, or you can also access it from the edit menu. It's going to be under, or actually, no, I'm sorry, it's the tools menu. Excuse me, it's going to be under tools, view, edit item, and product database. So this tools menu option. I think it's just easier just to access it from the grid toolbar, just because it's much closer to the items already. But if you'd rather use menus or you're just used to using the menu shortcuts, you can select it here. I see a question about what happens if you're pulling the product from from a linked database like ConnectWise or Autotask or Salesforce. Yeah, those items are refreshed automatically because we're just reading from those. So whatever change you make in there, that's going to be pulled automatically into QuoteWerks. This is only going to be for items that you are saving in QuoteWerks, where you're managing these items in QuoteWerks. That's what this feature is going to be specific for. Okay, so very easy to use feature, no setup involved. That's always my favorite features, is something that you can just start using that's available to you immediately. There's nothing you need to do to kind of set it up and start using. One thing to keep in mind too, it's a really great way to edit items on the fly. If you find a description from somewhere else, maybe you Googled it and you're just updating descriptions, but also if you needed to add like required items, if you find yourself, hey, every time I quote this item, I'm also having to go and find this item and that we sell with it on 90% of the time. This is a great time that when you do that, you can go ahead and say, you know what, let me go ahead and just edit this item in the database and add that required item or add that optional item or add labor to it. It makes it really easy to make those kinds of changes. So that's kind of what the thought process is behind being able to utilize that feature moving forward. Okay, so native and linked product searching in Eatalize, the next feature we kind of want to talk about. So what that means is if we go to our products window here and you search for an item in Eatalize, and we're just going to do real quick search to find an item, just to show an example. When I search for an item from my distributors, like I have here, so we'll let it load the first item. It's only going to show the 4 distributors that I'm integrated with for Edelweiss, so D&H, Synex, Ingram, Tech Data. However, if I also wanted it to cross-reference like my HubSpot CRM database, or my ConnectWise database, or my AutoTask database, or my Salesforce database, there wasn't a way to do that before, or any of my item databases. Maybe you have a services database like I do, or something else, or you're holding inventory in QuoteWerks. There wasn't a way for you to easily kind of cross-reference all at once. Now you're able to do that. So when you're in Edelweiss and you're searching for an item that's carried by one of the distributors, you can now see your other vendors in here. This is a feature you'll need to turn on, so I'll walk you through how to do that. Minimal setup, but it's just something essentially that has to be activated. So in QuoteWerks, we're going to click on Tools, Options, and then we're going to click on our Real-Time tab, and then click on our Real-Time Setup, and then we're going to click on our Product Content Subscription tab, and then you'll see a new section in here that says Native and Linked Product Data Sources. And when you click Choose Databases, it's going to show you any or all of your databases that are set up, and any item. So if I said, let's also search my item list. So I'm going to add 3 databases to my search window. This will then let me search for, when I search for an item in Edelweiss, it'll also search these databases and display pricing and the information from there as well. So then we'll hit OK, click OK, save our settings, and then we'll click OK one more time. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to go to our Edelweiss search, and the difference here is going to be that's going to now search across all the databases that I selected. And that's going to make it a lot easier when I'm looking for these items, instead of having to go search in Edelweiss and then say, okay, well, now let me check my services database or my item database or Amazon database, whatever it is. You're going to be able to just search in one spot. So we'll click on Products, and we'll go through our search again, and we'll narrow down our results this time to one that's in one of my databases. So I'll go to switch boxes here, and then we'll narrow it down a little further, and we'll say, let's go to product family. Just narrow it down to 10, because I know we've got a couple that are in some databases here. And then let's see if it's the first one. I believe it's the second one here, actually. When we load it, it'll show up in our Edelweiss search results. And then we can even get the additional ones here with like Amazon and CDW and Dell as well. Let's find one that'll show up here. There we go. So we can actually see across all the vendors at one point. So it's just something that can save you a little bit of time. Instead of having to go back and forth, you can see everything in one window in your Edelweiss search window. So again, very easy to do. It is just something you will have to activate. You'll actually need to set it up. So again, just Tools, Options, go to your Real-Time tab, Real-Time Setup, and then in your Product Content Subscription tab, you'll want to click Choose Databases. One thing I forgot to mention, since it's on the Product Content Subscription, that means you do have to have Edelweiss. So it's going through the Edelweiss search. If you only have Real-Time, you don't have an Edelweiss subscription, you won't be able to use that functionality, so just keep that in mind. But if you want to trial it, if you want to see if it's something that can save you time and work for you, just let us know. We can set you up with a trial key of Edelweiss, or if you need a trial key of Real-Time and Edelweiss, we can do that as well. Okay, so very easy to use functionality there. The email setup, again, another feature that's going to save a lot of time and just make things a lot easier for you. So if we go to Tools, and then My Preferences, and we click on Email here. So we've set ours up with basic, just using the built-in email client in QuoteWerks. However, for a lot of you, you're using Outlook or Office 365, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Live. So now you can actually simply select the one you're using. So if you're using Office Live, Office 365 or Office Live, you can put in your email address and then connect. So for example, if I wanted to use my Google one and say, let's do Brandon QuoteWerks at Gmail, and then I just do connect, and then it's just going to prompt you to log in. That'll just let you connect, authorize it, and you're good to go. So it's going to be a lot easier. I know for a lot of you that are using Office 365 had issues with that in the past, getting that connection working. So if you're still experiencing any issues, I would go ahead and just go through the OAuth here and get that connected, and you'll be good to go. Same thing for those of you that are using QuoteWerks Web. You can copy over the credentials from QuoteWerks Desktop. So that QuoteWerks Web will use the same authentication method, and that should make things a lot easier for you, so everything's just uniform across the board. So you can go through. If you're not having any issues with the email client, then you can just continue to use it the way you have. I think a lot of you are set up using the built-in client. That's fine. But for those of you that are looking to use Office 365 and the OAuth, and because it's just a little easier, Gmail, you can go into your Tools My Preferences menu and set that up. And this is a per user setting, so each user would need to do this, or you can go in there and do it for them if you want through the through the utilities user maintenance window. That'll let you make those changes. So, but again, this is access under Tools, My Preferences, and then simply click on the email tab and then make your change, select your option and make your changes. For those of you that are using the default mail client in Windows, that is available here so that we can use that. So it's not something that we supported previously. We had some requests for it, so we went ahead and added it. I know it's a smaller portion, but it is available now if you want to use that. And we obviously kept our built-in email client as well. So if you wanted to use that still, you can do that. Okay, let's go over to our quote importer now. So for those of you that are using the quote importers in QuoteWerks, we have quite a few of them at this point. We have our Tech Data, our Ingram Micro, our Synex, and we even have a Dell integration where you can import Dell quotes directly into QuoteWerks. So before we made any changes, I'm just going to open up Synex. Actually, we'll open up Ingram Micro. Helps when you click on the right shortcut. Before, when you pulled in a quote from Ingram Micro or any of the other vendors, we didn't always include the quote number from that particular vendor. So that information is now available to be pulled into QuoteWerks. And typically it's going to be pulled into like a custom text field in your document. So the way we set this up is you're going to go to Tools, Options, and we're going to click on our real-time tab again, and then real-time setup. And then, for example, Ingram Micro, you'll see here your quote importer. You'll need to already have it set up, but you'll see that there's new fields available, and basically pretty straightforward. But it shows you that you can map the Ingram Micro fields to a QuoteWerks field. So, for instance, we can map the quote number field to a custom text field in QuoteWerks, or custom text 02, custom text 03 for the line item comments. So quote number, pretty straightforward. This is the Ingram Micro quote number, and that would be mapped to our custom text 01. The expiration date would be mapped to custom text 02, and the comment to custom text 03. Comments might be the one that you change and add into like a memo. Those would be the line item comments. So anything that's been added by like your Ingram Micro rep, they posted a comment to that Ingram Micro quote, and any of those line item comments, we'll pull those in and you can have those mapped in here. The reason I mentioned custom memo 01, you can't see it because it's blocked by my other windows here. But basically over here you'll see they're larger text boxes and they just hold more text. So that's why I'd recommend, of all the changes to make or of all the settings, that might be the one you want. But the quote number and the expiration date here, that'll probably work. And that just is for your reference. So if you are talking to an Ingram Micro rep, your Ingram Micro rep, you have that quote number. You can open up the quote in QuoteWerks, but you can reference that exact quote number here. So just something that's available for you. Click OK to save it, and that will save your changes. Same thing, we'll just go right next to Synex. If you want to map the Synex field, the Synex quote number to a field in QuoteWerks, again, this is where you can set it, and you could go through and maybe you want to set it to a different number, just so you don't get them mixed up in case you are importing multiple quotes from multiple vendors in the same QuoteWerks quote. We can do that. And then same thing with tech data. We have the ability to pull that quote number. So we'll say we have nothing in 3 and we have nothing in 4. And then you can make those changes. And then in QuoteWerks, one thing that's going to be really useful if you're going to be doing that, especially if you're using all 3, you could go ahead and change those label names. So we could call this like Ingram Micro quote number. We'll just shorten it so it's not cut off. And we'll say Ingram Micro expiration date. And you could go through and you could customize those fields. For those of you that don't know about that shortcut for changing those label names in QuoteWerks, if you just hold Control on your keyboard and double click on the label name, that'll bring up the label change, so you can make that change. So we'll say data quote number. So you can go through and customize any of those fields and then choose the field that you want to map that to. That way, when you pull it in, you know what that field is for. So that's just one way that you can use it, but it makes it really easy to make those customizations and make those adjustments. Okay, and then finally, last thing I wanted to show you, I see there's a ton of questions have come in, and I'm going to circle back on those in just a moment. We're doing pretty good on time, so I'll definitely circle back to your questions. So if you have questions, just hang tight. I'll circle back to those. For the purchasing, we added the standard cost and unit cost, and it's just something that made things a little bit easier for us. When you're doing purchasing in the purchasing order window here, I'm just going to go to one that I know has it. So I'm going to go and select it. And this is all we're talking about, is that your cost is what you actually paid. That's what it actually costs you. So this would be could be your negotiated cost. This could be when you working with your vendor, you were able to negotiate a good deal on a specific item. So that's going to be your cost. This would be the standard cost, which is what's in parentheses here. This is going to show you what the typical cost would have been. So if you're unsure if you received your negotiated rate, this is a quick visual check for you where you can come into your PO and you can actually see, oh, okay, yeah, I did actually receive my negotiated cost. So that's what I have on my quote. That's what we paid, and that's what it should have been at before we negotiated it. So this essentially would be the real-time cost. And this is what we negotiated it down to with our vendor. So there's nothing you need to do for this one either. This is just going to be the normal functionality for it, so you can see that moving forward, and it just is going to make things a lot easier kind of when you're referencing that, because I know a lot of you, especially when you're using these quote importers and you're pulling in those costs from your vendors where you did get or did receive that negotiated pricing, you want to be able to check this and see that information. So. Okay, well, I think we covered all the major things we wanted to cover today. That is, okay, yeah, I think that's everything we wanted to cover today. So I see we have a ton of questions available, so I'm going to go ahead and start answering those, go through those. One thing I did want to mention, if you are unfamiliar with our updates page, you can click on the updates, so just go to QuoteWerks.com, mouse over support, and then click on updates. And all of our updates for every release we have is available on the website here. And you can click on view feature list, and you can actually see every single update that we've added. And you can see the build release that is included in. And it's broken down for you very, very easily, so you can see how many features we added, how many fixes we added, how many miscellaneous features we added. All of this is in here. Additionally, you can use the search functionality here to search for a specific update. So if you wanted to see, like, we'll do ConnectWise changes, we can see all of those changes and all those features and what build they're in. So if you were looking for like when 2020.4 was officially supported, a specific fix or a specific feature, you can come here and search that, and it works for pretty much anything. So if we wanted to search we'll do HubSpot since we just released that, we can actually see, there we go, there was HubSpot release date and all that information in there. So something to keep in mind when we do release an update, this is a great place to come to see those features that are available. We also have the customer area up at the top if you're unfamiliar with that. This also has a list of new features. It also will show you anything like kind of notable. So we had a pain point webinar a couple weeks ago. The one before that, a webinar recording, and then some release notes about the features, just some quick specific features. And then you'll see for a lot of them, for the major features, we'll do videos specifically for them so you can see exactly how to use them. So just another resource that you're able to utilize on the QuoteWerks page. Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending today. For those of you that have questions, just hang tight. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll start going through and answering those. For those of you that don't have any questions, we'll just be on the lookout for that email that'll have the link to the recorded webinar if you need a copy of that. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the day.